Hi everyone, apologies for the hoodie, it's super cold, and apologies for the screaming children. I've got them in the bedroom trying to be quiet. So I've been putting off doing videos and stuff lately because since Maddie started school, the house has just been a mess, and I always try to clean up the kitchen before I do live videos, but I thought stuff it. You guys can just see my messy kitchen and my hoodie because it's in Melbourne and it's super cold. So I just thought tonight I would do my dinner on a live so you guys can see what I'm cooking. So tonight, Maddie and I have been out all day at school holidays, and so I forgot to thaw something out for dinner. So I was kind of racking my brain for something, and I wanted something that was quite high in iron. I've had a little bit of hair loss lately, which I know a lot of mums complain about postpartum, and one of the main causes of hair loss, especially postpartum, can be low iron. So I really wanted something that was high in iron, but I obviously couldn't throw up meat. So I'm gonna make homemade baked beans for dinner. And so it's really, really basic. It's something that's always been a winner with Maddie since she was little, and it's something that you can throw together really easily. And you can keep most of the ingredients in the house, so it can be prepared really quickly. So what am I going to use for it? I've got any type of white bean, like a pinto bean. I've got cannellini beans, so I use 2 tins of them, and you need to drain the beans. So I forgot to tell someone that once, and if you're not someone who cooks with tinned beans very often, it may not be common sense to drain them. So they come in kind of this gross, kind of thick kind of juice, and so you want to drain that off. And I put mine in the colander, and I kind of put some cool water and run my hands through it until the beans aren't really slimy anymore. I love a white bean though. White beans are quite palatable, and Maddie likes them as well. So cannellini's my choice today. I've got 2 tins of them. I've drained them and they're sitting in the sink in the colander. And I've got 2 tins of diced tomatoes as well. Normally I like the ones that have got if you can buy them with some herbs and stuff in them, they're quite good. But today all I had was 2 kind of random tins of diced tomatoes. So one's no low salt, and one of them I assume must then have salt in it. I've also got some carrots and some celery. This is kind of at the end of its life. It's a little bit floppy, so we're gonna use that up. Normally I put in a bit of basil, but I didn't have any basil. My neighbor had no basil, and my neighbor couldn't find any at the supermarket when she kindly went down to do her shopping and looked for some. So I've got a bit of oregano here that she pulled out of her garden. So I'm gonna pop some of that in it tonight as well. And then I've got some stock. So you can use any kind of stock. I like to use vegetable stock. I've got a Thermomix, so I've made this. With the Thermomix recipe, it does call for a lot of salt, so I don't pop much into mine, obviously because I'm feeding a little person and we want to keep her salt intake low. So I store mine in the freezer. You can't really see, it's a bit frosty there. So I keep mine in the freezer so it doesn't go off, and kind of spoon it out. And really all it is vegetable paste. So even if you don't have a Thermomix, you could throw a ton of any vegetable you can think of, zucchinis, tomatoes, carrots, a whole lot of parsley, some basil, thyme, all that kind of stuff, and just an onion, garlic, puree it up and pop a little bit of salt in there, and you would have the same thing. It's a little bit of work, but I do a whole batch all at once, and it adds heaps of flavor without adding all the calories and things like that you can get from pre-bought sauces and stuff like that. So, but any other type of stock would do as well. It just gives it a little bit of flavor. So I'm gonna chop. Sometimes when I do these videos, I prep everything first, and I thought tonight I would just turn on the camera, so you might get a bit bored. If you can't watch the whole video and you want the recipe, it is up on my nutrition page on my website, www.lifespannutrition.com.au, along with lots of other recipes. I really like this one because it's easy to make. It's also dairy free. I'm allergic to dairy, so have to have a dairy free household. Not that normal baked beans has dairy in it, but when you're dairy free, any recipe that's dairy free gets kind of added to the repertoire. There we go. go. So I split my celery down the middle just to make it a little bit smaller. And then I'm just gonna kind of dice it here. I really wanted to make this. I've got, you can probably see at the front here, some really nice crusty sourdough. So I'm gonna grill that a little bit later. It doesn't fit in my toaster, it's too big. And then I'll put my baked beans kind of onto my sourdough when I go to eat it. It's gonna be delicious. And so beans are a great source of iron, especially if you're a meat-free household. Got a nice big cast iron pot here, so I'm gonna pop all of this in. I love any type of recipe that you can do with one pot as well. So for years, I used to chop the end of the carrot off, and I don't know why, because you can eat the stalks of the carrot. I mean, sometimes it gets a bit manky if you leave it in the fridge too long. You don't want to eat that. But I've actually started just eating that part of the carrot. Even when I have it raw, I just eat it. Because, you know, I'm trying to keep food waste down. And so I'm just going to leave it on. I'm going to cut these. It's been so long since I did a video. I think about it all the time. And I know that they get quite well received. Okay, I'm going to cut this carrot. So I don't cut them too small. Maddie's 5 going on 6. She's still a bit funny sometimes, some days with some foods. So I like to leave them big enough that she can kind of move it to the side if she's not feeling it for the day. If I cut it too small and she can't do that, she'll sometimes just kind of reject the whole meal. So if you've got kids, it's good to leave things bigger. The research actually shows that if you cut the bigger the pieces of food, like vegetables and stuff, the more chance you've got of children eating them, which I thought was interesting. When they kind of did peer-reviewed studies and stuff like that and put kind of food in front of kids, they found where they left the chunks quite big, that children actually ate more as a result than when they cut it up small, which is interesting. Because when I'm trying to make my way through something I don't really want to eat, I always try to make it really, like, cut it up really small and like bite by bite and get through it. So it seemed a bit odd that the opposite is true with children. Oh, wouldn't it be embarrassing if I chopped my finger off or something on video? That wouldn't be great. I can't lift, it's, love you. Oh, thanks, Joe. Carrot top. Yeah, you can make carrot top pesto. Yeah, this udi is not, well, it is mine now. My good friend Cass came down from Queensland a while ago, and I put it on because I was cold, and I really haven't taken it off for long since. I sent her some money to pay for it. And she's got another one. She lives in Queensland. Does it get cold in Queensland? I don't know. Okay, so we've got 2 carrots, celery in there. I've got my beans that my 2 tins of beans. Let's throw that in. My tinned tomato. Just gonna use that knife to get in there. Somehow I always spray myself with tomato. I love tinned tomatoes. Tinned food is a great source of nutrition. Frozen food is a great source of nutrition. So if you're like me, sometimes I feel really bad when I'm throwing out so much fresh stuff out of my fridge. I love to have a really good supply of tinned food and frozen food just to tide me over, because getting in enough fibre each day is so important. And this is like full of fibre, so it's really good. Fibre is so important for our digestive system. It feeds our gut bacteria. It keeps us nice and healthy in that way, but it also provides bulk to help everything move through us properly. Ideally, we should be doing number 2s at least once a day. Sometimes I meet people in my nutrition business that go like once a week or once every few days. If you're not going once a day, you might not be getting enough fibre. So maybe have a look at that. A big spoon. Let's have a big spoon. I don't like to put onion into this one. You could if you, I love onion. I just feel like it doesn't really need it. You get kind of different flavors without the onion. So I've stirred that up. What else have I got? Okay, let's get this stock in. So this stuff's delicious. If you're local to me, you could always hit me up. I could make you some. I'm pretty lazy in the kitchen. If I can take a shortcut, I do. You have to get me on a good day if you want me to make you some. Let's get in here. Just adds so much flavour though. It's really good. I remember someone made me some years ago. I kind of looked at it. I was like, that green stuff looks a bit weird. But it's amazing. Okay, maybe 2 tablespoons of this. Ugh. Oh, this jar is so cold. Because I don't like to eat things that don't have heaps of flavour. You know, I always used to be a big fan of that saying you don't make friends with salad, because salads to me were like iceberg lettuce, tomato, bit of capsicum. I mean, you can only eat that for so long. But a good salad has heaps of flavour. So if it doesn't have lots of flavour, I don't like to eat it. So once this has kind of started to heat up, I'll taste it and just see if it needs a little bit more stock in it. Might put some herbs in today. It's so cold outside, I need a bit of comfort food. So this with a bit of that sourdough, some nice dairy-free butter. I better check this for like bugs and things. Pop this in, see how this goes. When you're using fresh herbs, you tend to need a little bit more of them than dried herbs, because dried herbs are concentrated. That looks like enough, I think. Smells delicious. Or maybe one more. I sometimes get a bit carried away with herbs and spices. And then I'm gonna put in, oh, have I got any? There we go. So I rave on about this all the time. I can't pronounce it. Gewürzhaus. If you're kind of in Melbourne like me, it's a spice merchant, and they've got one in the city and they've got one at Chadstone, and you can order online. I'll bring it a bit closer. Gewürzhaus. If you kind of try to type it into Google, it kind of knows what you mean and it'll find it for you if you kind of sound it out. This is a spaghetti bolognese spice. I really like it. It's got capsicum, garlic, oregano, sea salt, chili, thyme, parsley, and pepper. And the chili is not too overpowering, so I'm just going to put like a little bit. You could use a spaghetti spice, a spaghetti kind of herb mix as well. Just gives like a little bit of flavour. So maybe half a teaspoon's worth in there, and then give it a stir. And so I'm going to pop this over a low heat on my stove top and kind of stir it every now and then until it's heated. It bubbled a little bit and heated all the way through. And then you can pop it in the fridge and reheat it for 2 days, or you can eat it straight away, which is what we'll do tonight with a bit of, you could put some rice, you could pop it with some bread like I'm going to. I just couldn't walk past this. It just looked so delicious, like this loaf of sourdough. And so that's what we're gonna eat for dinner. So really easy for lunch, really easy for dinner, hits the spot, full of fibre, because you've got all those legumes from the beans. You've got all of the carrot and the celery and the tomatoes, like everything in that is full of fibre and good for lunches, dinners, everything. You might be thinking, and I've spoken about it before, when I was a kid, we used to sing that song, baked beans, they make you fart, baked beans, they're good for your heart. The more you eat, the more you fart, baked beans are good for the heart. And they are good for your heart, but if you are farting a lot after having them, that is also an indication that you do not get enough fibre in your diet, because you shouldn't fart after having a whole lot of beans or legumes and things like that. I'm going to pop this on and talk more about why that might happen. Let me pop it on low. There we go. So if you're finding that you're quite gassy after having a high fibre meal, it's an indication that you don't have a lot of fibre normally. And what happens when you eat fibre is it feeds our gut bacteria. We've got about 2 kilos worth of gut bacteria that live in our colon. So our food goes down our esophagus, into our stomach, it mixes up, goes into our small intestine. That's where we kind of extract a lot of the nutrition. and then the rest of it, kind of the bulk, passes on into our large intestine, which kind of sits there to wait to be pooed out. And if you don't have enough water, that will also slow down that process, because then we try to extract water and it kind of like sits there like rocks. But it also like gives time for the bacteria that live in our large intestine to start to digest some of that food, and they love fiber as well. And so it's like a party, you know, if there's like 2 of us at the party and we've got like a banquet, we're gonna overeat and we're gonna feel a bit rubbish and yuck, you know. But if there's 30 of us and we're eating the same amount of food, we're gonna kind of feel a little bit better because we're gonna eat less of it. So if you normally have a low fiber diet, you don't have maybe as many bacteria down there. And so when you eat that food, they're gonna feel yucky, they're gonna be gassy, and that's why you might bloat and get a lot of gas. But over time, that bacteria will multiply with a higher fiber regular diet, and you won't see those gassy effects. But it takes about 2 weeks of that increased intake of fiber before you start to kind of not get that bloating and not get that kind of gassiness, because high fiber, we know, also fiber absorbs water as well, and that's why you get a little bit more bloat when you suddenly switch to a high fiber diet. So if you're finding that with beans and things like that, your tummy is a bit funny, don't stop eating them. Maybe eat like smaller amounts and then kind of work your way up. And so fiber in the long run is what reduces our blood pressure, reduces our cholesterol, helps us to, you know, our gut bacteria to create the right things for the rest of our body that help to transport hormones, help to, you know, with our serotonin levels, they help make us happier, and help our overall health. So it's really, really important that you do get enough fiber every day. I harp on about fruits and vegetables and everything. When I say fiber, a lot of people sometimes, they think I mean like bread and rice and stuff like that. But fiber is, you know, the indigestible kind of part of plants. So we really, really, really want to up our fiber. So that is my soapbox for the day. So I've made the homemade baked beans. The recipe is on the website, but you can watch back to the start of this to see the recipe as well. So I hope everyone's staying warm, staying safe, wear your face mask, and take care. And we'll see you soon. I'm gonna run around and turn this off. Bye.